Det är fel. Right. Okay. All right. Oh, hello everybody. My name is Michael. I'm running Foo Cafe, and this is our first online event for the year. And I'm really happy to see all of you out there. I see now we need some more lighting in this quarter of the studio. Anyway, I'm most honored to have a American Swedish woman who should do the first talk at Foo Cafe Live Studio in 2021. This is a magnificent year which has so much to give. So, and Lovisa will kickstart it at Foo Cafe. So I would like to present Lovisa here. I'm just changing my view, and there we are. Hello, everybody. This is Lovisa, and she will do a talk for us about building products for emerging industries.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me okay? Maybe I just get a thumbs up from Camille. Great. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Lovisa Svallingson. I am Swedish. I grew up here, and when I was about 17, 18, I moved away, and I've been in Denver, Colorado for the past 7 years or so. With me today, I have Camille. She is calling in from France. And she works with me at Patch on the sales side, and we are going to talk to you about how to build products for emerging industries. And she'll also be moderating the chat, so if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in there, and she'll either chime in whenever it's appropriate, or we'll wait until the end of the talk to take questions. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Present. Can you all see okay? Perfect. So building products for emerging industries, and maybe the subcontext here is more like figuring out what to do when you don't really know what you should be doing. And it doesn't only necessarily apply if you're in an emerging industry, but it could also be if at a company where you're trying out a new feature, or you want to build something that you aren't quite sure yet what it's going to be. Cool. So like I said, my name is Lovisa Svallingson. I actually came into programming after I dropped out of my undergrad degree in Boulder, Colorado. I studied economics for 2 years, and then I realized that it would be so expensive to pay back my student loans. So I joined the Turing School in Denver, Colorado, and they teach Ruby on Rails, and it's like a 7-month accelerated program. And shout out to all the nice folks out there. And now I'm working at a company. Ooh, I'm getting some echo. Hello? Oh, no, it's good. Yeah, I'm working for a company called Patch, and we are building an API where you can easily purchase carbon offsets. And you should follow us on Twitter. You'll see the tag like down there. Every month for each follower that we have on our Twitter account, we offset 1 kilo of carbon dioxide. So if you follow now, you'll I'll get the echo again. If you follow us now, you will we'll offset 1 kilo for February. Cool. So why do I want to talk to you today about this topic? Well, it came about because in the first months after joining Patch, I felt very much at a loss. I didn't really know like how to productively contribute to like our product vision. And since we are such a small team, it's really important that all of us feel ownership over the product and feel like we can, you know, provide suggestions and really push the entire team forward. And where I've worked before, we have had a lot of innovation, but it's not necessarily from scratch. In the previous companies that I worked at, we really much know who our audience is. We really much know like what their needs are. And maybe they are experiencing things that we ourselves have experienced, and we can more easily give them inputs and try to improve things for them. With something like Patch, an API for carbon emissions, purchasing carbon emissions, we don't really have that workflow today. So you kind of have to figure out like on a case by case basis what works out for your customers. And I think it's really important to call out that sure, you can just wait for your customers to tell you what they want and tell you what they need. But if you're only reactive, you might miss the train. So I think it's important that you have like a balance between being reactive and proactive. And also, most of the time, your customers, they might not even know what they need. So you need to be that consulting voice in a way. And also, another reason for this topic is building software is really expensive. And if you don't know what it is that you should be building when you're at a loss, you might end up making not necessarily the wrong decision, but maybe not the right decision. And you go on kind of like this 7-month journey of building something very sophisticated, very big, very, fully featured. But it might not be what your customers want. So I'm going to talk about like how to stay more proactive and on your toes. So how can you solve all of these problems? How can you really go about this work? And the way I see it, and this is, I'm sorry, this is very clickbaity, but I hope that you can trust me anyway. I see it as a way that you need to maximize both trust, both ownership. I guess I'm echo again. Hello? Okay. I see that you need to you need to maximize trust, ownership, agility, and creativity, not only on a team level, but also on an individual level. So in order to do that, I am going to cover these topics. We're going to start by talking about how you can employ an exponential mindset, working with product bets, how leaders can let go without losing control. And that applies to your CEO, maybe your middle manager, your team leads, anyone on the team. How you can employ like good communication strategies and how you can really leverage your team's opinions. And the last bullet point is going to be about customer partnerships. Great. Okay, so let's dive in. Exponential mindset. And it was actually Camille who told me about this a few weeks ago, and I'm really grateful for that because I really like this way of thinking. So in order to explain what an exponential mindset is, I think it's easier to talk about what it is not. So it's not an incremental mindset. It's not a linear way of seeing things. So if I say, okay, I have this flower bed and I'm going to redo 10% of it, and then it's going to be 10% more beautiful at the end of the day. So the idea that you're putting in effort and you get the same amount of value back. I see this as an example of this could be like hyper agile teams. My first job in software engineering, I was working at a fairly large company, and we were very, very, very agile. And we started at the beginning of the quarter, we had a goal, and then we needed to plan out every single little detail in order to reach our goal. And our goal was very defined, and if we didn't reach it, we hadn't succeeded per se. And you really need to, with an incremental mindset, you create a plan, you have a clear goal in sight, and the path forward is known. And it's really easy in that, right? It's kind of like nice that you have your to-do list and you know exactly what you need to do in order to reach success. But with an incremental mindset, like I said, the effort you put in is going to be equal to what it is that you get out. So with an exponential mindset, instead of linear, it's going to be exponential. If you put in, Hello? Okay, it usually goes away. Hello? Okay, good. I'm sorry about that. Yes, so it's not linear, it is exponential. So if you put in, 100% of effort, you might not even get back 100%. It might be even more than that. You can 10x your value and 10x your return. With an exponential mindset, the hard part is that you need to acknowledge that there is a learning curve. When you have put in 30% of your effort, you might only be 10% towards your goal. And once you see that you have put in a lot of work and you're actually not that much further on, it might be very easy to restore back to an incremental mindset. So with an exponential mindset, if you're calling that out in the beginning of tackling a problem, you know that you're going to have a so-called expectation gap before you really are accelerating. And I think an example of this is how we have gone about, or maybe like our experience with closing deals at Patch. We're working in a very, I would say, like we have an exponential mindset. We have a very lofty goal with what it is that we want to accomplish. And even though, and I think our co-founder Aaron just called this out the other day, it's like, even though we might not have like the results that we would like to see at this point, we're also learning so much. And we're learning what it is that our customers might not want. And even though it feels like we're just standing in the same spot and not getting anywhere, we are indeed moving forward. And Kimmy, do you want to give a thought on that?
Absolutely. I'll wait for the echo. Is it better? Okay, cool. Yeah, there's still some echo. And I think that now it's better. Okay, great. I'll be very quick. And maybe I can add my point like later, so that way.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, or you can just like type in Zoom. Sorry everyone, I think we're still figuring out how to do this best. Yes, so really at the end of the day, don't be afraid to create a plan with a lofty goal, because the path forward will always change based on your new information. And you're not going to know exactly what you need to do like 10 steps ahead or 20 steps ahead. You might just know what you need to do the next step. And next, I'm going to talk about product bets and how this really feeds into the exponential mindset and how we can use it in order to figure out what to work on next. Okay, so let's start again with what it is not. So it's not an agile methodology. I don't mean to be mean to agile. I've used it for several years and I think it's really great. But when you really want to move, or when you don't really know what it is that you're building, I don't think it's the right framework for this. So having 2-week sprints, assigning story points to stories, and having this huge backlog of tasks and features and everything like that you're going to work on, it doesn't really work when you don't really know the full path ahead. So first of all, 2-week sprints are incredibly expensive, in my opinion. Let's say that you have a team with 5 engineers, a product manager, an engineering manager, maybe a QA engineer if you're lucky, and a designer if you're even luckier. Every week you have maybe 1 hour of planning, 1 hour of story refinement, and 1 hour of retro. That was at least how it was when I was working in a very agile heavy environment. And if you think about it, that's like 3 hours times the number of people who are on your team that is tied up into meetings and tied up into thinking about what it is that you're going to work on and analyzing it, instead of maybe just diving into a project and going with it. Story points are also very incremental, right? It's like, if you've ever been on a project where you have a product manager that's like, oh, half of the story points are done, it means that we're halfway done with the project. And more times than not, I felt like that is not really the case, because we always have unforeseen things coming up. So what it is then, so a product deck is kind of like a 6-week long project with a 2-week long cooldown. Okay. Yes. So a 6-week long project with a cooldown. And the reason why they are 6 weeks long is because 6 weeks is right enough time for you to actually accomplish something. You can create something fairly large, but it's not long enough, so you're going to lose sight of the deadline. You're not really going to have any time to be like, that's fine, I'll do it in the next 2 weeks. I'll do it next sprint. Like 6 weeks goes by really, really quickly. When you're using product bets, you also don't have a central backlog. Some companies are really bold and they just delete their backlog. We haven't done that yet at Patch. We still have, our tickets and some product bets like that we're keeping track of. But the idea is that without a central backlog, you're actually freeing up a lot of time that otherwise would have been spent on maintaining that backlog. Every week you go through and you review and you think about, is this ticket still important? Is this feature still necessary, etc. So you can still have a backlog for yourself, maybe just like a personal one where you keep track of things that you think are important, but there's not a central one. And the idea behind that also is that if you have a really good idea, that good idea should keep coming back until you actually work on it. If it's not worth to think about, or maybe worth to keep track of, then it might not be worth your time. When you decide what to work on, you employ something called pitches. And that will be, the ideas that you have as a team member that you think that you should work on for the next product bet, the next 6-week long project time. You can pitch your idea, and then the team gets together and work on it. And a product bet is a small part of the shape up methodology that is created by Basecamp. And DHH, the Danish creator of Rails, he founded Basecamp, and they're very progressive in terms of thinking about how to work. And they have a really good long PDF on the shape up methodology that we can drop in YouTube comments maybe later. Cool. Okay. So how do you go about really managing the bets? And these are a few learning experiences that we have had at Patch. So when you have a product bet, it is very much still just a bet. You don't really know if that is actually what your customers want, but you can build it and then try it out, and then build it 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 and then build it. Like a techno song. Cool. Okay. So with bets, it's really just an experiment, and you don't know if that is actually what you want. And we know that it's harder to remove functionality than to add it back in. So we don't want to make a feature generally available that actually only a small subset of your customers want to use. Because when you make it generally available, you agree on maintaining it in perpetuity, pretty much. So we use feature flags at Patch, and I'm sure that it's a concept that you might have heard about. And it's not, a feature flag is a way to programmatically hide and show a specific feature in your product. So you might just say, okay, Kemi with this ID, she's the only user who's going to be able to see this feature. Everyone else are going to see this screen instead. And our salespeople and our account managers, they are the gatekeepers on the features, because they are the ones who are speaking with customers every day, and to figure out if something that we already have built will fit their use case. And until they have asked for it, pretty much, we don't turn it on for them. The general process of a bet, the way that will go during this 6-week time, is that first we're going to write a feature requirements document that gets reviewed by everyone on the team, on the technical team, and also people, our salespeople, to make sure that we have all the features necessary. Then we write the stories, and then we start building pretty much. And then the engineers who are in charge of that project, they make adjustments to the plan as needed throughout the project. You can also have a retro at the end of the product bet, but I think it's more useful to add a retro as needed, maybe. If something might not have gone according to plan and you missed your deadline, so that you can really dig in and understand why that happened. Okay, so it might sound a little bit scary that you're just going to let your engineers go and work on this project for 6 weeks. How do you know that they're actually going to make the right decisions? And how do you know that they're going to stay on par with the general direction of the company? And, oh, I forgot this slide. Here's an example of a product that we built in just a very short amount of time that's not even generally available, but it's just a way to show, for our customers, to show that they have offsets and the kilos that they have. And here's another one. We call this checkout links. And this feature came about, it's just like a Stripe checkout, as you can see, but we have a little bit more sophisticated backend logic that powers this, or that makes it get here. And this feature really came about after talking to a customer, and we understood what kind of the friction was and where the friction lie with them in order to integrate with Patch. So we were able to spend just a few weeks building a very lightweight feature for them so that they could move forward. We could unblock them. And then we have this in our back pocket. If we ever have any other customers who might be experiencing the same issue, we can turn this on for them. But other than that, it's not generally available. Okay, so when you're working on a product that's for 6 weeks, how as a leader can you let go without really losing control of your team? So here's my trolley TLDR, is that you don't really need any people managers. And managers are actually for managing projects and processes. I don't actually agree with this. I think, yeah, depending on the size of your company and the people that you work with, or like the team and, you know, the stage that you're at, you will need people managers. But when you are in a very, very small stage, you might not need it, or like people who are more like monitoring you in a way. The actual TLDR of letting go without losing control is that you delegate decision making. You want to empower and leverage each person on your team to make sure that they are like the best representative of for the company at any given moment, and that they can move forward as quickly as possible without any slowdowns caused by disclicken. I think that the American word for this is game of telephone, or the English word, but I decided to use the Swedish word here because when I moved to the States, it took me a long time to figure out what game of telephone was. Cool. Okay, so why do I have this little fish picture here? It's really a way of demonstrating like how you can let go without losing control. And in a school of fish, you don't really have an apparent leader. There's no fish that's saying like, okay, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna go over here, or you know, let's close this deal, let's build this feature. But still, all the fishies are moving in unison. They're moving as one, they're moving as unit. And oh, I'll just wait. Okay. And the reason why they're able to do this is that although there's not one leader here in this school of fish, they're all following the same set of rules, the same set of principles. They all are moving forward, they're not colliding with their neighbor, and they're moving towards the center. And a disclaimer, I don't actually study fish. I don't know if this is how school of fish work, but I think it works well for this example. So let go without losing control. Really, you want to empower your team, and you want to dictate principles, not decisions. And what this does is that if you have a set of principles that each employee knows is true for the company where you work at, they can use those principles in order to make decisions. And then if everyone at the company is using the same principles, most likely the decision that the manager makes, or the team lead, or the CEO, the individual contributor will be very similar. So another word for this that kind of has like a negative connotation is doctrine. A belief or set of beliefs held and taught by, well, a church, political party, or other group. It's kind of like your, not agenda. Yeah, I want to find a word that's like doctrine, but not as has like a negative connotation. And maybe a set of principles is just that. So when you're creating your principles, when you're creating your doctrine, so to speak, we really want to focus on values, goals, and principles. So your values is what you believe, and your goals is what you would like to have happen, and the principles is what help you make decisions. Principles that help you make decisions and move you towards your goal. And I've seen a lot of companies that have like their values specified, and will be, we believe in equality and things like that, which is really great. But how does that actually help me on a daily basis when I'm trying to make decisions? So let's take an example of creating a principle. Let's say that our value is to take on hard problems, and our goal is to finish hard projects within our deadline, or before our deadline is up. And so our principle can be our principle can be to take on the most risky and difficult work first. Here's another example. This sounds like it comes straight from Patch, but we actually haven't fully agreed on our principles yet. So this is just, take this as my suggestion maybe. So our value for us, we want to be bold. We want to make bold decisions. And our goal is to take gigatons of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So our principle for us can be to accelerate our customers' climate initiatives, meaning that we want to make ambitious and bold decisions in order to reach our goal. And the best way that we can do that is just to really partner with our customers and make and further their climate program. Here's another example that I really liked. This is from Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is a decentralized organization. They probably have some kind of leadership, I'm sure, but every person who works at Wikipedia, they are following these 5 pillars. And this is what helps them make decisions and work independently without really having one manager who's like dictating decisions to them. Cool. Okay, communication and opinions. So I'm sure that you all have talked a lot about communication and like that in the past. So I'm not going to dwell on this topic too much, but I hope to give you a slightly different perspective of it. So effective communication, just a few things that have worked really well for us at Patch, being such a small team and also like a decentralized team working in different time zones. So for us, it's really important that we have shared tooling across teams. Both our sales team and our business development team and our product and engineering team, we all use Asana, and having that shared tooling makes it really easy for me to maybe send Kemi a Asana task and say, can you please fill this out, or what are your questions about this, and can you give me your opinions, or how can I help maybe when sales is having a conversation about a certain deal. So it makes it really easy to chime in and really empower everyone. We recently started with something called weekly written briefs. So we've realized we ran into this issue that even though we had a company-wide stand-up a few times a week, it didn't really disseminate information across the team in the way in which we wanted it to. So we started with weekly written briefs, and each person or each business unit will write up just like a short summary of what the week entailed, kind of like called out what was difficult, what didn't go so well, what went well, and then also what you want to focus on next week. So having this be in writing that we can share with everyone on the team makes it easier for anyone at their own leisure to just drop in and see what's going on with the business development team, or see what's going on with one of the founders, or whatever it might be. So we're still going to keep our company-wide stand-up because that is unblocking us on a daily basis, but kind of like the more deep context we're getting from the weekly written brief. And then also experiment with what works best. Your team is very much dependent on, or what will work best for your team is very much dependent on the kinds of people that you have in the room. And it's not going to be the same for, within a company even. It will be very different from business unit to business unit, team to team. So just, maybe brainstorm with the team and see what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish, and see if you can find some kind of process or lightweight process that meets that goal for you. Cool. So also under communication and opinions is this concept of strong opinions held loosely. So when you're working with, you have like an exponential goal, you're working with product bets, you don't really know if what you're working on is actually the right thing to work on. I think that you still need to have conviction that what you're doing is the right decision. Instead, once you have decided on something and you have come together as a team, that is the thing that you're all are rallying against, because you're going to waste time and maybe get distracted if you are losing sight of that 6-week goal. However, it's still very important that you can adjust as you receive new information. And it might be in the beginning of a project, end of a project, or whatever. Because if you're doing something wrong, you want to know that as soon as possible. And in some companies where I've been at before, some teams where I've been at, this has kind of been like a subtext, meaning that you might didn't voice it, meaning saying just like, oh yeah, everyone's wrong, everyone can make mistakes, that's fine. But I really like calling this out specifically, because that means that even if you have maybe a debate within your team, it doesn't mean that anyone is wrong or anyone is right. We're all just trying to become as right as possible together, and it's okay to change your mind. And I think that this concept is also what enables pivots. You might have your eyes set on a goal, set on a specific project, but you also need to be able to let go of your strongly held opinions in order to move quicker and to build something that actually will be used by your customer base. Okay, cool. Last topic is the customer partnerships. And I actually don't know how long I've been talking for, but this will hopefully be brief. So the one thing I want to call out here, especially when you're trying to figure out what it is that you're building, you need to rely on your customers a lot. You can't really have any transactional relationships where it's like, I sell product A and you give me this amount of money, and then that's it. We really need to take advantage of the people who are interested in using your project and focus on helping them out and meeting their needs. And if you create customer partnerships and kind of have that spelled out in the beginning of a relationship with a customer, I think you're going to get more traction and they're going to be more loyal also further down the road. With this also, especially if you're building something that's new, maybe you haven't seen it before, it's not like a very common thing. You do a lot of learning on a daily basis as a team, not only with like that specific customer, but with everyone else. So it's really important also that you share back what it is that you've learned and what has worked for other companies, for example. I think we were in a product demo or like in a product conversation last week, and we showed like the integration that someone else might have done or like an example of it, just in order to learn together so that they can visualize and see what it is that, what could be possible. And I know that thought leadering and being a thought leader has kind of like a cliche sound to it, but okay. But depending on the context, I think that this is a really good thing, especially when you're trying to learn as much as possible together. And really, their success is your success. So like the example that I showed you before with that Stripe checkout, we pivoted, and in order to accelerate a customer of ours, we built something really quickly in order to unblock them so that they could move on with integration or with their integration. Because if they're doing really well, they're probably gonna make your product also do better. Cool. Okay, and that's all that I had prepared for you. I apologize for the echo. I made it a little bit difficult, but now maybe you have some good samples for the next techno song you're going to write. I have this in conclusion slide here, just gonna go through it. We talked about employing an exponential mindset. So don't be afraid of setting lofty goals and accept this non-linear path. You're not gonna see what's right around, what's a straight line, but you're going to move very slowly forward in order to eventually see kind of like what's around the corner. I highly recommend checking out the Shape Up methodology and these product bets. It has worked really well for us, and it would be interesting to hear if anyone has like experience with it, or if you have anything that's worked well, haven't worked very well. The letting go without losing control is fundamental in my opinion. Create this principle, this life doctrine, and empower your team to make decisions. And depending on the structure of your organization, you might want to focus on like, how can we manage our processes and not manage our people? Or like, if we are managing our people, to what extent should we be doing that? Communication and opinions, strong opinions held loosely. It's okay to change your mind. And then lastly, focus on your customer relationships and really on accelerating your customers. Share back what it is that you learn, and yeah, make friends along the way. Cool. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Lovisa. You can find me on Twitter as Big Lovisa, and on GitHub and everything like that. Cool.
Thanks so much, Lovisa.
Thank you. I'm like afraid of the echo. It's like we can't upset it.
I do have a question about the Shape Up methodology. Did you use it? Was Patch the first company that used it at, or did you bring it, or was it something that people on the engineering team brought when you got here?
It's something that we've had on the engineering team before I joined, and I wasn't aware of it. And it was actually a very interesting process going from like a highly agile or like traditionally agile companies and moving on to this more like loose, like not a very specific like prompt, maybe like at the beginning of this 6 week project. It was just like a problem that we wanted to solve, and then we had 6 weeks to kind of like figure out how to do it. And I think that with our product lead and technical co-founder Brennan, it's interesting also to see like how his role has shifted. Because in the beginning, when I was very much was like, I don't know what's going on, what am I doing? He was more involved. But then as we've talked about like how is it that we really want to build software, what do we want to focus on? His time has been able to be freed up and focus on other things, whereas me and the other engineer and the product team, we can focus on, this very specific problem. But it was scary.
Very cool. I would say, going back to, can I say again? Yeah.
Maybe now.
Maybe now. Yes.
Maybe
go,
now.
Yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes.
Maybe
Go,
now.
yes. Yes. Yes.
This is not a bad song. 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 This is not a b What about now?
I think it's better.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Okay. Well, the last thing I wanted to say was going back to your point of letting go without losing control. It's such an important concept for
Mm-hmm.
our company, and I mean, it's my first time being in a company in such an emerging industry, so I'm learning every single day, as you said, along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And everything you said makes total sense because everyone and the co-founders and company just simply don't have the time, and it simply doesn't scale if
Mm-hmm.
they are not empowering people to make decisions for themselves, and then teaching them how to do that. Um, the one thing that I need to point out with this though is that if you're employing this mindset, and if you want your company to run with this way in this operating system, you really need to set expectations with everyone so that they're aware that, hey, I'm not going to tell you what you need to do. I'm expecting you to figure it out and come to me if you have questions. Obviously, we're here to problem solve together, but this space and that way of working is just too rapid and too fast to have someone that's laying out the plan for you.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yes, I think that's a really good point. Setting the expectations, because also I came from a structure where you were very much like assigned work. You were told what to do. And depending on where you are in the org, like in an organization, that might be different. You have more or less responsibility, but at least as an individual contributor, it was very rare that I could suggest things that we should focus on or things that we should work on, because that it all came from the top down. And probably for them, like, it needed to be like that, because they knew very much like, this is what we're going to build. Let's execute on our plan. The plan was known. But here, like you said, like with us, like we don't, or with Patch or any kind of like company that might be building something that doesn't exist yet for an emerging industry, or just like within your industry, when you don't know what your plan is, you cannot spend all that time just like together trying to figure out what to do. Like, you need to empower the people that are with you, like you hired them for a reason, and yeah, all trying to achieve the same goal. And hopefully it works out. And if not, you're going to learn something very useful along the way.
Absolutely. Everything is a learning experience. It's a bit like thought leadering or being a thought leader, but honestly, mistakes are how we learn sometimes even more than successes. So,
Yep. Cool.
all right.
I think
Thanks
that
everyone
maybe
for.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to thank everyone who commented in the chat on the live stream, and if you do have any questions, I'm here to them out, and then Lovisa can answer, and 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 Lovisa can
Great.
I think it's
Yes.
better now. Yes.
Yeah, feel free to hit me
so
up.
if anyone has any questions,
at Big Lovisa, at Use Patch. Camille, I don't know if you're on Twitter, but
I am, but I don't use it enough.
we'll change that. 2021
Yes.
goal. Okay. Well,
I
yeah,
like
thank
it.
you everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to have more conversations about this. And yeah, Happy New Year. Happy freaking New Year. I hope 2021
Happy New
is
Year.
different.